For Pacifica Radio, I'm Scott Baba. Gaza's health ministry said Israeli shelling hit a crowd of people waiting for humanitarian aid at a roundabout in Gaza City, killing at least 20 and wounding 150. The Israeli military said today that it's looking into the reports. Meanwhile, the UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency said at least 12 people were killed and 75 injured when a UN facility sheltering civilians was struck in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The agency UNRWA said 2 shells hit its Khan Yunis training center during fighting in the city's western outskirts. The training center is one of the largest UNRWA shelters, with between 30,000 and 40,000 people said to be living inside its grounds. UNRWA said the compound was clearly marked, that its coordinates had been shared with Israeli authorities, and that it and the civilians inside had to be protected under international law. Israel denied carrying out the attacks. The fighting in Khan Yunis has isolated its 2 main hospitals, stranding hundreds of patients and thousands of displaced people inside. Thousands of people have rushed to escape further south in recent days, crowding into shelters and tent camps near the border with Egypt. Meanwhile, British Foreign Secretary David Cameron met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday. Cameron told Sky News that he pushed Netanyahu to accept a pause in the fighting.
It's time for an immediate pause in the fighting, because we've got to not only get the aid in, but crucially, we've got to get those hostages out. And what I think we can do now is plan for how you turn that pause into a permanent, sustainable ceasefire without a return to fighting.
The passenger in a pickup truck where an American Palestinian was fatally shot in the occupied West Bank last week said the shooting was unprovoked. 16-year-old Mohammed Salama said that apparent Israeli fire hit the back of the vehicle on a dirt road. 17-year-old Tawfiq Abdel-Jabbar was killed in Friday's shooting. Israeli police are investigating, with an initial statement citing a weapons discharge by an Israeli soldier, an off-duty law enforcement officer, and a civilian targeting people, quote, purportedly engaged in stone throwing. Salama denies they were throwing stones. Tawfiq Abdel-Jabbar's father, Hafta Abdel-Jabbar, said his son was just going to a barbecue and had no reason to be shot.
That day I was going to the city of Ramallah, and I called him. I said, I want you to go with me after the prayer, after I got out up there. And he said, no, I'm with my friends. We're going to do a cookout, picnic, and I really want to go. So I said, all right, it's your call. And about 10 minutes later, on my way to Ramallah, I got the call that my son is in an accident.
The Associated Press reported it saw at least 10 bullets in the truck, most in the back. Hafta Abdel-Jabbar said that even if the teens had thrown rocks, they posed no imminent threat driving through the brush. Russian media said that investigators have found the flight recorders of a Russian military transport plane that crashed in a border region near Ukraine. The discovery today comes a day after Moscow accused Kyiv of shooting down the aircraft, which Russia said was carrying 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war. The Il-76 crashed in a huge ball of fire in a rural area of Russia yesterday, and authorities said all on board were killed. Megumi Lin reports.
The plane crash took place on the 700th day of Russia's full-scale invasion, and Moscow has said that 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war were on board the military transport jet, along with Russian crew members and soldiers. The plane crashed in the Belgorod region bordering Ukraine. The governor of Belgorod on Wednesday said there were no survivors. So far, Ukraine has not confirmed or denied Russia's claims that Kyiv had shot down the plane. Zelensky has called for an international investigation to find out the cause of the plane crash and who was on board the plane. According to a Reuters report, both black boxes have been recovered from the crash site. Megumi Lim in Kyiv.
President Joe Biden picked up an endorsement from the United Auto Workers Union yesterday, an important boost to the Democratic president's re-election bid as he pushes to sway blue-collar workers his way in critical automaking swing states. Biden thanked the union for its support.
Look, I kept my commitment to be the most pro-union president ever. I'm proud you have my back. Let me just say I'm honored to have your back and you have mine. That's the deal.
Meanwhile, today, Biden is returning to the swing state of Wisconsin to announce $5 billion in federal funding for upgrading the Blatnick Bridge and for dozens of similar infrastructure projects nationwide. Biden makes his pitch today in a state that's part of the, quote, Blue Wall trio of states where he defeated Trump in 2020. The decaying Blatnick Bridge connects Superior, Wisconsin and Duluth, Minnesota, and will get $1 billion from Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law. Vice President Kamala Harris visited Wisconsin on Monday to discuss abortion rights. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will visit tomorrow. I'm Scott Baba for Pacifica Radio.